Namaste. Welcome to my channel, the UPSC game. These are the important contents which we are going to cover today, so stay focused.
Hi guys, my name is Vijay and here I am with another new interesting news. Many of you might have already understood my way of study, and for those who haven't understood it, my way of study includes first I would do the brainstorming along with you, right? Then we shall discuss what is food subsidy and what is the difference between 2014 and 2014, right? And how the food subsidy. Then we are going to discuss about what is poverty, right? Then after knowing what is poverty, how the definition of poverty is formed internationally, we have to discuss about that, right? And then classifications of poverty. These are all the static part, right? You are not missing out any static part here in the current affairs also, right? And then how the poverty estimation has been done in India, right? And poverty estimations history. This is the history, right? That is in post independence, right? And then should the subsidies be retargeted given that 4 to 4.5 is poverty? The main issue is the food subsidies are still being maintained to reduce the poverty, right? And it is becoming a fiscal burden for the government, right? And then we have to discuss the fiscal impact of food and fertilizer subsidies, right? That is what we are talking about, right? And aligning NFSA with rising incomes. And then the PM PRANAM, One Nation One Fertilizer. How can this be a solution? And NPK ratio, dependencies, and ecological impacts, right? So without any delay, let's get started. First, this topic is very wide and it contains of GS1, poverty and development, right? And GS2, poverty and hunger. And also GS3, the inclusive growth, right? Well, for the GS1, the poverty and development, there are questions which are framed on deprivation, the COVID-19 effect on poverty, and programs. What are the programs and their effectiveness over poverty and development, and digital initiatives on poverty and development, and cryptocurrency and its effect on poverty, and government and NGO efforts in alleviating. Then with respect to GS2, the issues related to hunger and poverty. This is the micro theme, right? And with respect to GS2, the estimations of poverty, incidence and intensity of poverty are important, and the correlation of hunger and poverty is also very important, right? And with respect to GS3 inclusive growth, the agriculture and its relation to poverty and its alleviation. This is the theme, right? Then with respect to topic, this is a broad comparison of 2004 and 2014 where the Manmohan Singh and the Modi government prevail, right? Well, in this, they gave that in 2014 when PM Modi assumed office, India's nominal GDP stood at 2 trillion, right? Up from 7089 billion in 2004. That is 2.8 times in 10 years, right? But you have to think of what is the difference. They gave 2004 to 2014, right? But your mind should guess or question what is the difference between 2014 and 2024, right? That is, this year the India's economy is 4.19 trillion. That is, it almost doubled in 11 years. That is, here 2.8, here into 2, right? Though it is less percentage of increase, but when you see the number here, after some progress, it is very hard to increase, right? And there are COVID-19 issues and other many issues, right? Demonetization. So this is a overall good improvement, right? And then India is poised to become the fourth largest economy right now, just behind the US, China, and Germany. This is with respect to GDP, right? With respect, if we see it in the perspective of PPP, then we will be ahead more than this, right? Fourth is what? US, China, and Germany. Germany, you have to these both countries you will easily remember, but remember this Germany. He will just confuse you with other country, that is Japan, other countries like that, right? Then in the PPP terms, from 2 trillion in 2004 to 6 trillion in 2014, to 17.65 trillion 2025. This is a massive increase, right? This increase is much more greater than this, right? And see the numbers. It is very high. This position India as world's third. See, this in terms of GDP, it is fourth, but in terms of PPP, it is third largest economy in PPP terms, behind China and US. That's it, right? And see, here, when you see the PPP, China is ahead of USA, right? Then, India's per capita income, we have to see, we have seen the GDP in respect to GDP, and we have also seen in respect to PPP, purchasing power parity, right? And with respect to India's per capita income, right, rose from $2,424 in 2004 to $4,935 in 2014, and now it is 12,000, that is into about 2.5, and this is about 2, right? This is so this increase is much greater from 2014 to 2024, right? Then with global rankings, we stood at 181st in 2004 and 166th in 2014 and 149th in 2025. This is an improvement, of course, right? But we are still far behind than other South Asian or Southeast Asian countries. That is, China per capita is $28,000. We are $12,000, right? And the US at $89,000, we are nothing in front of them, right? And if we see the neighboring countries, Sri Lanka, it is ahead of us, and Bhutan, it is much ahead of us, and Pakistan and Bangladesh, these two are behind us. And remember this, they may confuse you with these points, right? Next, how the food subsidies are performing, right? The food subsidy budget in financial year 2026 is slated to be 2 lakh crore, right? India is giving free food, rice or wheat, 5 kg per month per person to more than 80 crore people with extreme poverty, falling to just 5.3%, right? The value of food coupons for the bottom, say 15% of population, could be rupees 700 per family per month, and the amount can come down to rupees 500 per family per month based on the income of the identified beneficiaries, right? And these coupons, see, when you multiply it with this, it will be huge, right? That is 2 lakh crore. Then farmers can use these coupons to buy chemical fertilizers or biofertilizers or do natural farming. This is a very good point which substantiates the usage of food subsidies, right? And the imbalanced use of NPK can be corrected and leakages plugged and innovations in products and practices promoted only if the government deregulates this sector. Deregulation is very important because when you deregulate, there will be market competition, and if market competition is enabled, then the productivity of everything will of course increase due to competition, right? This is political exercise, so policy change is needed, right? Then with that, we have to know the what is poverty, right? In general, you can say that the lack of food or money or something like that, right? But it has some definition, and you have to mug up this definition for sure, right? And just go and write in the exam, right? Poverty is a state of deprivation where people lack access to basic necessities: food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education, and livelihood. See the broadness of these. It is very wide, right? Then UNDP defines UNDP definition, right? I will just mark it up. UNDP and poverty definitions, right? Then UNDP defines poverty as multidimensional income, poverty plus lack of services, dignity, and opportunity. This is even wider than this, right? Dignity and opportunity is also added. As per World Bank, the extreme poverty living, they just gave, they recently updated this, the $2.15 per day. If a person is unable to spend this much amount per day, then he will be considered as poverty, below poverty line, right? Then in India, poverty is defined by the consumption expenditure and not income, right? Mostly because we will see that in the history, how they calculated it, right? And for example, a person unable to afford a calorie adequate food, that is 2400 and 2100 calories, rural and urban, right, is poor. That is Tendulkar norms. You will see here the Tendulkar norms, right? And key facts: India multi-poverty index, right? It is more in depth than the World Multi-Poverty Index, right? UNDP, which is given by UNDP, right? World Multi-Poverty Index has 10 indicators, but Indian multi-poverty index has 12 indicators, right? And the key fact is that 13.5 crore people exit poverty between 2015 to 2021, right? And if we take it from 2005 or 2009, then the number would go to 404 million. That is 41 crore people have gone out from the poverty, right? Then next we shall see the definitions. We have already seen how the UNDP defines it and World Bank defines it. But what other organizations define poverty, right? It is essential to know how they define it because it gives different perspectives and the needs of the world, right? Well, for the World Bank, we have already seen the extreme poverty this is the new updated one. Formerly, it was 2.15, and $3 is the updated one. If a person can't spend $3 per day, he is considered under poverty, right? And other thresholds of $4.8, right? These are technicals. We don't need to go that much. When we do the World Bank poverty estimates, we shall do it, right? And UNDP uses multidimensional poverty index. India's multidimensional poverty dropped from 53% to 15%. This is a very massive increase in the index, right? Then with OECD, OECD defines poverty as earning less than 50 to 60% of the median income. See, this is another new, this is different from these, right? A median, they will just form the median income based on the whole, the national income and get the median income of it, right? Then they will compare it with that, right? If a person doesn't earn 50% or 60% of median income, then he will be considered as, right? Then International Labour Organization focuses on job insecurity, right? This is about labors and jobs, right? So it naturally focuses on job insecurity and informal sector working poverty, right? Then they see every organization gives a perspective to poverty, right? Then with respect to UN, views poverty as denial of dignity, rights, and participation. See, these are about rights, like similar to here, right? The dignity and opportunity, UNDP, right? Here also it is UN. Then India's SDG rankings, that is Sustainable Development Goals rankings, 99 out of 193 nations in 2025. This is a massive improvement. Earlier it used to be 134, 126, 116, right? This year it is 99, and first time we have came under 100, right? Then what is the classification of poverty? These are the types of poverty which can be classified, right? The absolute poverty, right? We generally read all this for the prelims, right? But it is very much important for mains too. Remember this, you have to give these definitions when these terms are in the question, right? And absolute poverty is fixed threshold that Rangarajan line of rupees 32 per day total in 2011 to 12, right? Absolute poverty is nothing but they will just give a number. If you are less than this, you are under poverty. If you are more than this, you are not under poverty. That is the basic definition of absolute poverty, right? Then with respect to relative poverty, we compare, is the keyword, compare one person with another, that is income related to society's median, that is where the OECD countries have taken the median, right? This is relative income, right? In developing or underdeveloped countries, absolute poverty is the best measure because it is very hard to get data from every person, right? But with relative poverty, it is mostly applied in developed countries because they have efficient data management or data collection, right? And we have a massive unregulated sector, and they have the OECD countries or the developed countries have regulated mostly, right? And non-formal economies highest in developing or underdeveloped countries. Next, the multidimensional poverty. India's MPI fell from 24 to 14, 15 to 19. This is 24 to 14. We have already seen it, right? The MPD, where we have seen it. See here, 15 to 21, 13 crore people have exited, right? And here he is also giving mostly the same data, but in percentage, right? 24 percentage, and here 14 percentage, right? Then rural to urban, the difference between poverty. Rural, agriculture dependent, and landlessness. This comes under poverty. But in urban, informal labor, that is 11 percentage of urban poor live in slums, according to Ministry of Home and Urban Affairs, right? Chronic versus transient. Yes, chronic is for long periods. Transient is for temporary, right? Chronic is communities like Dalits, Adivasis, and Bihar. Transient around 230 million pushed below poverty line during the COVID-19 disruptions. But after COVID-19, they may have come out of poverty, right? Then with respect to poverty estimation in India, based on MPC, that is monthly per capita consumption expenditure, right? Tendulkar Committee, here it is. Tendulkar Committee first time took MPC data for poverty, right? Estimation, right? Threshold tied to minimum calorie intake, and CPI inflation adjustment, right? They used calorie intake and consumer or consumption, right? Data. Next, the poverty rate as per Tendulkar, 21 percentage overall and 25 percentage in rural and 13 percentage in urban. That is 25, that is quarter for rural, and minus 12, right? Or the half, you can take the half, right? Well, the new data is yet to be published. Then, with respect to history of poverty estimation, the Alak Committee in 1979 during the Janta government, right? You can just fix this chain to the already packet of information that you have, that is the Janta government during that period, or the non-Congress, first non-Congress government, right? The calorie norms, that is 49 in rural and 56 in urban, right? That is during 1773 to 74, that was the norm, right? Then the Lakdawala in 1993, that is post LPG reforms, right? CPI adjusted and no health or education is taken, and state specific. He has given first time, he gave the state specific poverty lines, right? And Tendulkar Committee in 2009 included health and education, that is 816 and 1000 per urban, and this is in 2011 to 12, right? Before that, in 2004 to 2005, there was another, like, not these parameters. These were later revised. These are the revised ones by the Tendulkar, right? Before they gave just 500 or something like that, right? In Rangarajan, that is in 2012, enhanced the consumption to 972 per rural and 1400 for urban, right? You have to remember these numbers. If you ask me why should we remember that, because you have to quote them in the answers, right? That is 1000. This is easy, right? 1000 in urban and 800. You can just give a rough figure. Just give 800, right? And give 1000, right? And here you can give 1400, and here you can give 1000, right? Here 400 difference, and here 200 difference. That's it. That is easy, right? Government officially uses Tendulkar data, right? But academics often refer to Rangarajan for estimates purpose, right? Right? Then, should we retarget the subsidies given 4.5 percentage of poverty is prevailing, right? The World Bank extreme poverty at 5.3 percentage for 2022-23 under 3. This is updated one, right? $3 per day. If we take this as benchmark, there are 5.3 percentage are living in poverty in India, right? Then NFSA covers 81 crore beneficiaries. That is National Food Security Act, right? Covers 81 crore. That is 59% of the population. A massive population, right? And this is world's one of the top poverty reduction schemes, right? Leakage from outdated socioeconomic caste census 2011 data remains high, right? How many of you remember this from our last video? That is the census. We have also covered this too, right? There are 3 types of census, and this is one of it, right? Data remains high, leakages, right? Then DBT, direct benefit transfer pilots in Chandigarh, Puducherry led to 30 to 35% savings. This is a proactive measure, right? And this is very efficient, right? And recommendations are target the subsidies using Aadhaar linked income data, freezing fiscal space while protecting vulnerable groups. This is the balance, right? We ultimately see for balance between fiscal space and empowering the vulnerable people, right? This is the balance we try, right? This is one. This could be written way forwards also, right? Then, with respect to fiscal impact on food and fertilizer subsidies, it is very important to know this, right? With respect to financial year 24-25, the allocations are, you don't need to remember this data, just compare this, right? You have to remember the comparison only, right? For food, they gave 2 lakh crore. We have already seen here, right? The 2 lakh crore, right? Then with respect to fertilizer, they gave somewhat less, right? The combined subsidy is 3.69 lakh crore, right? In that, the food subsidy itself is 50%, 54% of the total 3.881 lakh crore subsidy bill. Not only these two, but others also combined, right? This subsidy compares 8% of the central government spending, right? This is a fiscal burden, right? Because of the food or fertilizer subsidies. Then consequences: crowds out capital expenditure in infrastructure, health, education, and R&D. Well, if we give more subsidies to agriculture, then funds will all be going to food or fertilizer, right? But infrastructure, health, education, and agriculture, research and development will be neglected. Or there is another effect called as crowd out effect. That is when government takes much loans from the banks, right? Then there will be no money to be left over for private parties to be taken, right? If you read these, you have to remember all those, right? Because I have joined that chain of information to my schema, right? Then the despite subsidies, India imported fertilizers worth 1.76 lakh crore in 2022-23. There is a need to think about this because we are spending 1.664 lakh crore and we are importing more than that, right? Then there is a need to rethink the policy, right? That is NPK, and this is the most of the subsidies go to this. Less will go to this, right? And we have to make the farmers use them efficiently, right? So there are initiatives like nano DAP, right? Or organic farming, Krishi Paddhati Yojana, right? These are all the schemes which you have to remember, right? Then there is another problem which is in calculation of poverty. That is, we have to realign the NFSA, that is National Food Security Act baseline poverty, right? Below this, we will be given free food grains, right? So NFSA data, NFSA benchmarks should be aligned with the rising incomes, right? Because India is growing day by day, and the per capita income is also growing, right? Then the rural wages grew. Well, this is the substantiation. Rural wages grew by 5.5% annual between 2011 to 23, right? The multi-poverty index declined 13.5 crore. We have already discussed this, right? And despite this, NFSA still covers 67% of population based on outdated 2011 criteria. So we have to update it. When you write this statement, you have to give this substantiation, right? Without this, you can't write this. If you write this also, you will be given just half mark. If you don't write this, you will not get another half mark, right? Then need, use PLFS survey, that is the periodic labor force survey, right? Latest FPR, right? 37% of women are working, right? Then, and recent expenditure data to refine eligibility supported by DBT and One Nation, right? You can use these platforms to make it efficient, right? Then Karnataka's Anna Bhagya scheme. This can be your example. Saw leakages due to dual coverage, an example for need for data reforms, right? Right? Then we have some schemes, right? PM PRANAM is there, and One Nation, One Fertilizer is there, right? These are all to decrease the fertilizer subsidies, right? Or burden on the fiscal, right? PM PRANAM funds states to reduce chemical fertilizer use, promote bio inputs, right? PM PRANAM, you have to remember this. And nano urea, that is, I have already said, the nano DAP, diammonium phosphate, right? 15,000 crore in budget was allocated, right? Then One Nation, One Fertilizer, uniform Bharat branded. There will be, right? There will be, if you take the cover here, the Bharat branding will be there, and here you can place the brand or logo of the private company, right? The Bharat branding should be there, right? Then Bharat branding to rationalize subsidy, right? Subsidy will be given for that, right? Critics flag reduced brand based innovation, right? Because it has both positives and negatives, right? The positive is that subsidy will be given for the companies which follows the guidelines, and critic is that there will be reduced brand based innovation, right? If every brand is called as Bharat, then what is the uniqueness of each brand to show, right? Then examples, nano urea adoption by IFCO cut conventional urea consumption by 8% in 2022-23. You can quote this as an example, right? Then there are other schemes like PM Kisan and nutrient-based subsidies, right? And reduction of duties and taxes on export for export promotion, right? This is also a subsidy scheme. And PM Kusum is there, right? Midday meal scheme is there, and Vanabandhu Kalyan Yojana is also there, right? Then NPK ratio, discrepancies, and ecological impacts. Well, this is a static topic, which in general discuss about it in the static, right? The ideal ratio is NPK, the 4:2:1, right? Well, if you see this, this is the same ratio as the bricks of Indus Valley, right? Then the actual usage in 2020 to 23 is 7.5 percentage, 7.5 to is to 3.2 is to 1, right? This is very different than the prescribed, right? The nitrogen heavy due to urea subsidy. This is urea, right? 7.5. Consequences are soil acidification, microbial degradation, elevated N2O emissions, reduced yields, right? Then policy solutions. This should be the way forward, right? Soil health cards, balanced fertilization campaigns, VRT methods, and subsidy reforms like PM PRANAM. This section is mostly the way forward section, right? You have to use this as per the need of the question, right? Then with this, we shall end this analysis for today, right? Jai Hind.
कृतज्ञाहम्